Welcome back in, everybody. It's another edition of the First and Orange podcast. Parker Gabriel here, Luca Evans there. Friday morning edition, preview edition. Broncos and Giants, week 7 already of the season. Luca, I'm squinting, but do you have a little chain on?
Yeah. A little chain. And you know what I've been doing recently is a little like dancing around.
Yeah.
And
running around, you're dancing around,
running around, dancing around. Got my little chain on. Yeah. I mean, everyone's got something. It's
That's
what.
right.
Yeah.
Everybody needs something.
Everyone needs something. So
it's we'll just start right there, I guess. It's turned into, and we'll talk about the thing that actually matters, the game itself. But it has, the Broncos have not really been a source of a lot of bulletin board material. And the funny thing about bulletin board material is you can make of it whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear what Jonathon Cooper said earlier this week and immediately think like, oh man, this is going to get spicy.
Yep.
But clearly it struck a nerve with Giants fans, Giants players. And so I guess we'll just start there. This is sort of like you would not have circled this one on the calendar at the beginning of the season and said, this one's going to have some spice to it. But now suddenly it kind of does.
It's the great Twitter fingers beef of, Broncos-Giants week 7, October 2025. I think, and to your point, I don't think Jonathon Cooper was leveling, let me just take a bunch of pot shots at Jaxson Dart here. It was more we've been playing really well. We've seen quarterbacks who have done this before. And also, I'm older. I just came off of the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. Like, I'm gonna curl my nose up a little bit, and here's this guy, dancing around. It to me, it felt a little bit more playful. I don't know. I saw people saying it was more complimentary. I don't know if I would take it as complimentary. I just think it was. He didn't go past the line, but.
Yeah.
There's
all kinds of I think you get into situations where it's like someone a couple weeks ago was talking about Derrick Henry. It's like, how hard is it to tackle Derrick Henry? No, it's not hard. I don't remember who it was that said that. There's all sorts of players are very rarely like you'll hear players talk in respectful terms about like the size of a challenge. Yep. Like I bet if Mike McGlinchey talks in the locker room on Friday afternoon. Well, like Joe Lombardi said, the Giants have 4 werewolves up front, and like you'll hear J.K. Dobbins yesterday was talking about how good that defensive front is. There's stuff like that. But no one is ever going to back down from a challenge or say, oh, I don't know if we're up for this. And especially when you're talking about a defense that has 30 sacks through 6 games being asked about a rookie quarterback who started 3 games. Like that is just not a recipe for Cooper to stand up there and say, yeah, this guy's Josh Allen light or whatever.
And what point Pat Surtain, his comments obviously didn't, but Pat Surtain was very complimentary of Jaxson Dart on, I think it was Wednesday, when he was talking about him. And so like, there's clear respect there. It's not like, this guy's nothing, we're going to beat him into the dirt. But let's recap a little bit, because for those of us who aren't chronically online, but
those people do exist.
People do exist. First, I did say in this Jonathon Cooper tweet that he doesn't seem intimidated by Jaxson Dart. That was more of like a little joke that I was trying to make there. So I don't know if that's what caused it to blow up or the nature of Jonathon Cooper's comments. Either way, it did. Giants fans and media and what have you pointing to this is the arrival of Jaxson Dart when people are talking about him this way. And then all of a sudden that seems poised to kind of die down. And then Nick Benito jumps into the fray with a deleted tweet, cryptic, Maybe he was talking about the Giants fan base. Maybe he wasn't. There's
maybe
no
he was
way.
talking about OU.
Maybe he was talking about OU. There's no way to know. And then all of a sudden,
and what it said was something along the lines of, "I've never seen a fan base so delusional," or something like that.
Yep.
Approximately.
And then you have Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau jumping into the fray with, I have no idea what Abdul Carter tweeted something about put your 3D glasses on.
3D glasses on, which
I don't know what that means. Kayvon Thibodeau with a couple very, very well placed gifts. Got to hand it to him. The Denzel Washington. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Jonathon Cooper, I think last night tweets just a sunglasses emoji. And so anyway, I wrote about this in our scouting report, but it's bulletin board material for the pass rushers galore. And the unfortunate parties in this may be Jaxson Dart and Bo Nix and the offensive lines at play here, which is, we can pivot to that, but this is these are two of the best, just in terms of sheer personnel, best pass rushing units in the league, and I think that's going to be really exciting to watch now that, I don't know, this could all just be gamesmanship and not have any impact whatsoever. I think that's very possible, but potentially revved up a little bit. Andrew Thomas has been playing really well for the Giants. I think he is the lowest pressure rate among tackles in the league.
And Garrett Bowles has been near the top too. So.
Garrett Bowles has been near the top. So this is going to be kind of a mano-a-mano, who's got more juice pass rush game, which is fun, which is really fun.
Definitely. And I think the teams are similar. Now the production, like unit-wise, as you pointed out yesterday, hasn't been similar. The Broncos have been really good defensively. The Giants haven't been particularly. But when you just look at the defensive fronts and challenges that these two offensive lines face, there are some similarities in the sense that it's not one guy. Obviously Nick Bonito and Jonathon Cooper lead the NFL in pressures so far this year. I think they've got 60 between them, which is insane. So they're combining to average 10 pressures a game. And then you add in not only the depth at outside linebacker, but John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen.
I was looking yesterday, Zach Allen, on just Pro Football Reference, Zach Allen and Nick Bonito are tied for the most quarterback hits in the league. Zach Allen's quietly been a monster.
Yeah, it's interesting because Next Gen Stats has his pressure rate down a little bit this year. Obviously, he's commanding a lot of attention inside, but it hasn't slowed the production. And then, frankly, you just look up and down, and when you've got, 8 different guys were in on sacks Sunday alone against the Jets. You've got, Eni Uwazurike with sacks in back-to-back weeks. John Franklin Myers doing all of this. All those guys you have to win on your own, obviously, but there's Zach Allen fingerprints on all of that too. So that's that. And then you look at the other side, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, obviously the number 2 overall pick. Chauncey Golson. Then you get to the Dexter Lawrence. Has been a monster for a long time and still is. And so it's just
werewolves.
The werewolves of Jersey. And so you get all of that put together, and then you add the little, spice through the week or whatever. And it's not like these guys wouldn't have, both sides wouldn't have come out humming anyways, but you just, it sort of makes it even more interesting to, see who gets the better of that, those two sides of the ball.
Yeah. I think, just again, the Giants defensively have not had the best results overall. I think, outside top 20 and points and yards and yada, yada, yada. But, I think part of that, their secondary hasn't been great. But when Carter, Burns, Thibodeau are playing together, I think Next Gen Stats Insight, they're 46% pressure rate or something as a defense, which is nuts. So, that's not an easy defense purely because of that. And I think it'll be a chance, there's been so much talk about the offense this week from everyone, and after obviously a really ugly game against the Jets, and particularly when you have, I think there's definitely faith in Alex Palczewski, as Garrett Bowles mentioned yesterday, and then also happened to out that Alex Palczewski is probably starting at left guard. But there's been so much talk about tempo. I was talking to Troy Franklin in the locker room a couple days ago, and he point blank said it, like, the Giants front is really good. Tempo helps wears out those kinds of guys. And he thinks, it's going to be really, it's probably something, as he put it, that they really want to do in this game. It's something that helps Bo Nix get into a rhythm. So I'm curious, they scored when they, 2 out of their 3 scoring drives, I believe it was, against the Jets, they ran back-to-back no-huddle plays at some point in the drive. So obviously you can't turn to that constantly, but it's a weapon for them when they do. So I think that'll be crucial.
Yeah, definitely. And it helps you keep, it's obviously it's never quite as simple as you can talk about in a podcast, but when you get the personnel group, if you get a personnel grouping that you like if you can trap a personnel grouping on the field, you can keep those 3 guys from being on the field, even if it's for, if it's a 3rd and 5 and you've got a play you like, you can maybe, engineer it so that you get a more advantageous set of defenders on the field than having all 3 of those guys out there together. It took me a minute to look this up, Luca, but one side note, you said 46% when those 3 guys are on the field together. The Broncos' pressure rate overall as a defense this year is 46.1. So leading the league there. So it's it just is it's a game where not only I think the tempo thing is interesting, but also the Broncos, one of their weaknesses so far this year has been early down efficiency. This is a game where it's important to be in good, manageable situations. Like 3rd and 10 is never good, and it's definitely not good against, a pass rush like this. So it's almost like, in a way, just from the pass rush standpoint, you sort of you can think about the Broncos' challenge offensively somewhat similarly to the way you think about most opponents' challenge against Denver's defense. Your best chance is to, be in manageable situations, move the ball. It can be, I think we've talked a lot about their need to play a little bit more aggressive. Joe Lombardi told you yesterday, they got sort of conservative because the defense was playing so well. And you got to find that line. But this is definitely not the game for a bunch of long dropbacks and all of that. So I'll be very interested. I'm always interested because it's different every week. But I think it's a particularly interesting week to see what Sean Payton has sort of pegged as a game plan.
Yeah, it feels like this is the week for a, cohesive, let's mix in early down J.K. Dobbins touches. Let's start, a lot of quick Bo Nix dropbacks, and then let's get Bo in a rhythm and let's not go away from it excessively.
Right.
This feels like a let him cook kind of week to me. Giants have given up, I think, 242 passing yards average a game. There's a chance for him to really kind of get in a flow here. So I think I just don't think they should overcomplicate this one and mix in some tempo, but otherwise hand the ball to J.K. Dobbins on some early downs, just sprinkle the ball around to their playmakers like they did early on against the Jets and go from there.
Yeah, and then flipping it around, like a lot of people, I'm interested in the sort of Jaxson Dart and Cam Scadaboo show. It's been obviously they've won 2 straight. They hammered Philadelphia, and they've got some sauce to their game right now. Now, whether it's, I think you can have 2 conversations and have them fairly. One of them being, is this a viable plan long term to have your quarterback But at the same time, can it win you one game or a couple of games in a row? Like, does the long-term viability of Jaxson Dart playing the way he's playing have any impact on Sunday itself? Not really. So those are, you can have, I think, that conversation in parallel and say he can't play like this for the next 10 years. And also it can be pretty dangerous if you don't take care to slow it down. Now, interestingly, the Broncos they're in a little run here of playing mobile quarterbacks, and they've done a really good job on Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields, different flavors of mobile, but mobile nonetheless. So in terms of Dart and Scadaboo, where do you start there, Luca, in terms of how the Broncos handle that?
Yeah, I think the game plan, it's obviously different, but I think not being too overzealous. I think Vance Joseph all of a sudden has a little bit of like a, guys, let's stick to our rush lanes and let's not try and just, go crazy here, because they were so successful in, against the Eagles, just in terms of sticking to their assignment, beating their guy one-on-one. And then, there was no Jalen Hurts, I think, ran twice for 3 yards. Like, there were no lanes for him to scramble. And so I think that's going to be important against Jaxson Dart, and not, Vance is going to dial up pressure when he needs to and this or that. But just in a classic, like when they bring 4, bring 5 or what have you, Jaxson Dart, for all, as well as he's played through these 3 games, has really struggled just kind of when he's under pressure. I think he's 12-29, like not a good quarterback rating, what have you. So I think you make him be a thrower in those situations when you're able to win one-on-ones and go from there. And then I think, I think Cam Scadaboo is a really just good test of kind of Broncos red zone defense. He's been very good, and I think he has 5 touchdowns in his last 5 games. And then, this is one of the best, obviously, red zone defenses in the league in Denver. So I think that'll be just kind of a good matchup.
They haven't really seen, I'm trying to think, they haven't really seen like a hammer back yet this year.
Yeah, I mean, they never saw the tush push against Philly. And so, I mean, what is it? Breece Hall.
Yeah, they face good backs. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Breece Hall.
Yeah, they've never I think partly because they put themselves in good situations, but they've never really faced like a let's run this, let's run the ball 3 times down your throat type situation from the 5-yard line. So that'll be interesting. I'm sure I haven't looked into it too much. I'm sure they, design run stuff with Jaxson Dart.
That's where I think that's a Benito. Benito is so obviously you have to play rules when you're talking about design quarterback run and the read option stuff and all of that. It's easy to lose an edge. That's where there's been times in Nick Benito's career where he's probably frustrated coaches with overcommitting and then losing an edge, but he also is liable a couple times a game to blow up a play like that, a zone read play like that at the mesh point or hit the quarterback or guess right, and then you've got a big play. So the quarterback run's always a way you can create an advantage for yourself offensively, and it also is you kind of doing a high wire act when you've got a defense that pursues and that is as athletic up front as Denver's is. So again, it's a pretty interesting cat and mouse setup, between the way the Giants have been playing the last couple of weeks with Dart since he took over, and then what the Broncos do well. Funny enough, there's been for obvious reasons, but it's like the Russell Wilson, the Russell Wilson return round 2 just has there's no
legs. There's no legs. You forget he's on the Giants at this point, and Yeah, the one pass he threw last game was enough to make Brian Daboll physically go in the medical tent and ask if Jaxson Dart was ready. So
don't do that. If you're an NFL head coach listening
that.
to this podcast, which is extremely unlikely, don't do
which
don't go to
what you're telling me they don't? That's
maybe only 31 of 32 or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I don't. I just Jaxson Dart. Please stop throwing yourself headfirst at defenders. It's not going to end well.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying that in a funny way.
It's not.
Seriously,
it's not the move for longevity. Yeah.
But they've got swag. They've got they have aura, as the young kids.
As the young kids like you say.
As the young kids. No, I'm not. This whole week has made me realize I'm aged out.
You're careening toward your mid-20s, Luca.
I'm in my mid-20s. I'm in my mid-20s at this point. So fun week. Let's see what else we got.
Did you know? Okay, so you were tweeting about 6'7" last night. I have no idea what it means, but did you know? I learned this while I was in England, naturally.
Yeah.
That apparently, I almost tweeted at you, and what I was going to say was, I'm surprised that the librarian's kid doesn't know more about Chaucer. But apparently, I don't know that this is the genesis of the TikTok trend, but apparently Chaucer has some references to 6s and 7s.
Interesting.
Which our former columnist here at the Post, now at the Denver Gazette, Mark Kisla, posed to Nick Benito, which he did so one-on-one, but I would imagine that was sort of a funny scene, talking to Nick in England about Chaucer. So that's next time you see that, just drop some Chaucer references and see what happens.
I'll have to do that. That one still boggles my mind. Okay, let's see.
Special teams. Do we have concerns? Do we have special concerns that special teams could be a bugaboo for the Broncos in this game?
I don't. I was looking at it, and the Giants aren't particularly great. So I mean, if they get outplayed again, obviously that's a concern. But I think I'm curious to see what JT Gray brings, if he is as good as advertised. I think Darren Rizzi called him the best kickoff player that he'd ever coached yesterday, which is a huge compliment. But you gotta, there needs to be demonstrated proof of steadying things. And I mean, the sort of I don't know, factor that I'm keeping an eye on here is just Marvin Mims. And I wasn't here last year, but he just hasn't looked like the same or the guy that's been advertised in those roles. Obviously, he's had a couple of kind of potential muffs. And, it just doesn't look like the lanes are necessarily there for him, or he's going horizontal, a couple too many times. So, and particularly when his role is just as viable or variable, I should say, as it is right now in the Broncos offense.
He's third in the NFL in punt returns, but you're right.
It just doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, the kick return game is really the sort of the one where they just haven't. I think you could probably count the number of times they've been out, above the 35, which is the touchback mark, on one hand probably this year. And teams, generally speaking, have kicked to RJ Harvey instead of Mims on kickoffs, but Mims has had
the Jets kicked to him last week, and it didn't. You looked up everything, and they're like, why are they behind the 20? What's going on? Yeah.
So that's an interesting one, because I think Mims, we've talked about him, in terms of his offensive role and trying to unlock some there, and he's the past couple of years too. Sometimes what sets him off on a good course offensively, obviously it depends on if the ball's coming your way and all of that, but he has also parlayed big plays in special teams into big plays on offense.
Yep.
Just from sort of a confidence standpoint and all of that. And he's not getting 10 touches a game, obviously, but I think he's involved enough offensively right now that he's probably, has some good feeling about. I talked to him earlier in the week about sort of what he's doing and his role and all that. Yep. Obviously, you always want more, but yeah, he's a kind of, I feel like I say this every week, but he seems like an X factor kind of player, like because he's one of the. I mean, like honestly, he's not the only guy the Broncos have, but he's one of the sort of primary candidates any given week to be a guy that just tilts the field in one snap. And that's not something they've done a lot of so far through 6 games.
No, not. I think their two biggest pass plays that come to mind are the breakdown, like Cortland Sutton, 50+ yarder. I think it was Chargers, maybe. No, it was.
Yeah, it was a walk-in.
Yeah. That one, and then the Troy Franklin, boot 42-yarder in week 2, and beyond that, it's been, it's felt. So, I think, to me, I keep waiting for the Pat Bryant game. Maybe it's this week. Maybe it's some point. You just, you're like, this guy is running a lot of routes.
Yeah.
And he's getting open. It's going to happen at some point. I think it'll be like a 4 or 5 catch game. It's not going to be like,
Yeah, that'll be. He's got 4 for 46. That's the Pat Bryant game.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the Pat Bryant game. But and then again, just I think Bo Nix, a lot of what he said about Evan Ingram the past week, like I think you can tell that he feels like the trust is there and he wants to keep getting the ball to him. Like things were working when they targeted him a lot through the first half of that Jets game. So I would look for that probably.
You want to talk a couple injury updates before we
yeah. I can't believe we've forgot.
27 minutes deep and no
27 minutes and no Dre Greenlaw.
He's been a limited participant. We're recording this Friday before we go out to practice. So we'll see. He's on injured reserve. Obviously, they started his practice clock this week. He's been a limited participant Wednesday and Thursday. There'll be game designations out this afternoon. I'll be a little surprised. Maybe they'll just rule him out, and it'll be a clear, hey, it's been a ramp-up week, and the goal is for him to play next week. I don't know. I mean, they could list him questionable regardless of whether they plan on activating him on Saturday or not. So that would seem the most likely scenario, but we'll find that out this afternoon. In general, Luca, I mean, obviously we're only out there for a few minutes. We only see a little bit. Looks like he's been moving fine, just like in the individual work we've seen. I thought for all of the, I don't know if hesitation's the right word, but there's just been some rigmarole. They think he's going to be back, then he's not. They think he's going to be back, then he's not. They think he's going to be back, then he's not. That did not really slow down Vance Joseph on the optimism front yesterday in terms of what he thinks Dre Greenlaw's impact will be when he's back, whether that's this weekend or next week against the Cowboys.
Yeah, and said you'll feel him. Everyone will. It's a heck of a quote. So I got a story coming out, but I talked to Dre Greenlaw's adopted dad, and just a little bit on his injury recovery, and essentially like obviously there's been so much back and forth and Sean Payton even called it nebulous. But really, I think the later part of his recovery has been pretty straightforward. Like the Broncos were trying to get him back. Essentially, he was out there, limited participant. I think the week 2 week, and then you thought, oh, okay, maybe he's back in week 3. That doesn't happen. What happened? As Dre's dad told me was he was trying to test out the quad, doing some sprints, and then, another setback happened. So basically that's when, put him on IR at that point. Things just, and I assume, don't know this for sure, but the long-term plan has always been, that has been the plan for him is to think long-term. And so give him a few weeks to get healthy. Has seemed no no visible setbacks this week. It looks like he's moving well laterally, which is always a good sign. And, when he does return, I think Vance Joseph made pretty clear it'll probably be in a part-time role. I think you'll still see plenty of Justin Strnad, but it's interesting. It's like he's the final, it's like Thanos with all the stones. Exactly. He's like the final one that just, so it'll be
interesting. And I mean, it's interesting because, for the criticism that Alex Singleton and Justin Strnad got early in the season, you sort of rounded into form. Strnad has 3.5 sacks. Now, like, none of that is in any way saying like Dre Greenlaw at his sort of normal, healthy playing style is still somebody that you want on the field, and you want on the field a lot. It's not going to happen right away when he gets back, but obviously, you're talking about just real depth and maybe turning a relative weak into a weakness into a strength. Although Strnad and Singleton have really played pretty well the last couple of weeks, and Sternad's been good. So there's that. Like, it's just sort of it's very intriguing about this defense has been so good, and then what would it look like with a healthy Dre Greenlaw in the middle? And I just think, like, until you actually see that, you carry a little bit of reservation about actually getting there. And then once you're there, also how long. But listen, I mean, Dobbin's been healthy so far. Hufang has been healthy so far.
Yep.
Evan Ingram, not so much, but is trending in the right direction now. So if you get a little stretch in here where all 4 of those guys that you signed, obviously, like, ideally, if you're the Broncos, you want it to be down the stretch where they're all playing and contributing. But pretty interesting, theoretical to have all those 4 guys sort of contributing the way you thought they might when they signed this spring.
Yeah. I'll say this. I'll get on my soapbox here and speak to the masses, the millions of people that are listening
please
here.
Do.
What did Alex Singleton do to you guys? That's one. I'm going to ask that because every time I never see anything but general disdain for Alex Singleton on Broncos Twitter or what have you. He was really good last game. Like, he's gotten burned several times in coverage. He hasn't been great in coverage overall. That's gonna happen. It's been better. It's been a lot better. The defense is still really good. He's still the leading tackler. Like, he hasn't missed many tackles from what I can recall.
Especially after week 1. He told me week 1 that he like put his shoulder into a guy and then realized, like, as it was happening, he's like, oh wait, I actually have to tackle this guy, which is just a product of having torn your ACL and not been on the field for a year.
Yeah.
But certainly, like, he's regarded as a good tackler, and he's been a good tackler the last few weeks.
Yeah, and it's clearly taken him some weeks to ramp up. He wasn't very good in the early part of the year. But again, like, he wears the green dot. The Broncos defense is clearly communicating and moving on a string extremely well right now. He has a clear role in that. And I think we need a little bit of a reality check that when Dre Greenlaw is back, we've talked about this, like, I don't know that Dre Greenlaw
not coming off the field. I don't think. I mean,
I don't know that Dre Greenlaw is going to be the guy at nickel consistently, especially at first. Who's the only linebacker in there. So I think we, like, there's clear trust for him. Sure, doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. Like, he's playing really well. I just, I had to say that because it confuses me. It just, I don't know, like, what happened but yeah.
I appreciate you saying so. Last thing before we get to predictions, we're not saying Alex Palczewski's starting at left guard. We're just saying sounded like Garrett Bowles talking about Alex Palczewski starting at left guard yesterday in the locker room. I asked, Garrett was very eloquent talking about Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah.
Another element of this weekend honoring Demaryius. Please go to the Denver Post website, read Luca's story about DT. It's this incredible look at the the people around Demaryius, obviously, that are still here with us, and sort of the way that they process are still dealing with grief, and also the joy that, DT brought to so many people. Neither Luca or I actually got the chance to cover Demaryius, but you can't throw a stone at the Broncos facility and not hit somebody that just has been around him and had incredible things to say about the player and person he was. That's all. Super Bowl 50. All those, everyone's back in town. So Garrett, talked about Demaryius, talked about Aqib Talib and all of the guys that he got to play with after the Super Bowl year when he was a rookie in 2017. And then just asked him about the prospect of playing next to a third left guard in as many weeks with Ben Powers getting hurt and then Matt Parrott tearing his MCL last weekend. And he said, yeah, I'm used to it. I've done it a lot. And Alex Palczewski will be ready to go. So make of that what you will. Said he'll be.
I like how you asked him a real that's something as a player that you can take and give a really general answer on, and not
whoever
but he was like nope,
Palcho is ready to go.
Palcho. So we'll see. Number 63 is eligible at left guard.
Yeah, he will not be reported on one. Yeah, well, he will not be reporting eligible, which I guess we probably should have led the podcast with this, Luca. Most
right. Who is going to play jumbo tight end? I'm thinking maybe we'll get some Crum action.
Ooh, that would mean he's active for the first time.
It's true.
This year.
I could see it.
That'd be great. He did it a little bit actually his rookie year.
He's just so big. It's like, he's
a pretty good athlete for his size too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That would be that he would be a super jumbo tight end.
Yep.
So yeah, we think Alex Palczewski, we'll see about that. Obviously, it is a question, obviously, like we were talking about with the Giants pass rush, just how the offensive line holds up. Not easy if you're Garrett Bowles, you're communicating now, played 39 straight games with Ben Powers, one with Matt Parrott, now starting, the next round here with Alex Palczewski. So there's that element. That's a sub thing to watch during the game. Luca, prediction time. What do you think? The Broncos offense look better this week?
Yeah, I went a little crazy. I said 27-10 Broncos. Was
this before or after Chaingate?
I think this was in the Chaingate.
In the midst of.
This was in the midst of Chaingate had no. I could easily see a scenario in which they fall flat on their face and New York and Jersey just reign supreme. But to me, the Giants aren't a particularly good pass defense or run defense. Like, this feels like an opportunity. This feels like every time that I've felt like we might see like a pissed off Sean Payton, we've got it. This feels like a pissed off Sean Payton game. This feels like a game that, I think they're aware at least that they played a conservative with Bo Nix last game. I would assume maybe we get a little bit more lean in the other direction. So I see that. And then also, I think Scatterbo gets a touchdown. Especially without Malik Neighbors, I don't see, and it's nothing on Jaxson Dart. It's nothing on they have a couple really good receivers. I just don't see them making a huge dent with the secondary that the Broncos have. So that's where I fall.
I said 17-13 Broncos, which obviously
slugfest.
Obviously would be an ugly one. I could see, at some point, normally, you'd like to see it more consistently, but you're right. There are moments on the calendar where suddenly, Sean's offense puts 35 on the board and something like that. That's definitely in play this week, I think. I've sort of swung back to the believe it when you see it. Yeah. Because even obviously Philadelphia is a inspired comeback and all of that, but that was after 3 quarters of nothing, and so obviously Cincinnati looks a little different now with Flacco in the building, but they haven't done much offensively in a couple of weeks here. So Maybe they will. Yeah. I'll disagree with you on one point. I don't think it's obviously not impossible. I don't think the Broncos defense falling flat's really very much in the decision set here.
Like, that's very true.
I think the thing I would say about, the last thing I guess I'll say about the Cooper and Jaxson Dart thing is like the Broncos defense has played really well pretty much all year, not against Indianapolis and in moments, I guess, against the Chargers, like the and all that. In general, it's a group that has almost, if they haven't yet, they've almost arrived at the point where they can sort of say and do as they please, and they're capable of backing it up. So that's what, like, I don't think it's what Cooper intended, but I think it could easily be spun into, hey, our guy put it on the line, and now it's our job to go back it up. So that's, and they're I'm not saying it's 100% lock, stock guarantee they do that, but they're obviously capable of doing that.
Yeah.
And if I were guessing, I would guess that they do that.
Yeah, I would imagine that. I mean, I don't know, but I would imagine certainly by Nick Bonito's reaction and by the general vibe of this group that John Franklin Myers and Zach Allen and Malcolm Roach and whomever aren't going to Jonathon Cooper and saying, "Why did you say that? No. Why did you say that? We can't back that up, what?" Yeah. So,
Funny enough, John Franklin Myers was extremely complimentary of, he was saying, he said the reason the Giants are playing the way they're playing offensively is because of Scadaboo's running style. And then this was before Chaingate. He literally he said of Jonathon Cooper, he's sort of like our Cam Scadaboo.
Yeah. So there you go.
All for nothing, maybe all for something. We'll see. It's an interesting one. We'll be there on Sunday. In the meantime, check out all the latest, denverpost.com/Broncos. That's Luca. I'm Parker. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you Sunday at Empower Field. Talk to you soon.